you're being sold this idea of, hey, we got this great idea. And honestly, even the people who make the show, they don't know it's going to suck yet. They all believe this is going to be good.
I like your concession because you're always so good about not giving your hand, but you just said people don't know it's going to suck yet, which you couldn't help but say that you can't not say it sucks.
Welcome back, everyone, to S1E1, the show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, and forgetting anything we might know about the future run of that show, decide if it's a show we want to greenlight or cancel. This week we're going to be talking about Aliens in the Family. Aliens in the Family went 8 episodes with only 1 season on ABC. Today we're talking about episode 1, which was called Meet the Brodies, originally airing July 15th, 1996. So to get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me, as always, the boys, Joe, Ferg, Nick, and Gordo. What's going on, guys?
Heyo.
Yo. I am Joe Bart, the displeased. Not funny. Not funny. Not funny.
Oh, that's
Holy
pretty
shit.
funny.
Does this show know what it's doing where the first 5 minutes of it, one character just yells out, not funny? Holy shit.
So, I imagine most of you guys listening to us today are very familiar with the TGIF show, Aliens in the Family.
The one that ran 2 episodes before
A
it
show
was canceled.
they chose to pull this off and put reruns of another show versus playing more than 2 episodes of this fucking show.
So 8 episodes were made and aired, but only 2 made it on a TGIF. And then after week 2, they're like, this isn't going to fly. And they just kind of like dumped the rest of them on like regular Saturday morning programming, just slowly got them out of the way.
To give you an idea, too, I looked everywhere for, like, a contemporaneous review of this show. Like, I really wanted to read, like, an article about it at the time, and there's, like, nothing that exists. But if you go on IMDb, somebody who worked for Jim Henson Productions wrote thing. He's like, it's not that bad. It would be a cult show if people remembered it. And I was like, buddy, you are fucking wrong.
No, that's a man after my own heart.
I gotta say, I agree with that guy because I remember this show.
I did too.
I didn't remember the pilot, but I remember watching it.
I had no idea.
Yeah, nothing about this.
I remember the alien. I remember Bobert. Like, as a kid, I remember watching this.
But it goes to show you the power of member berries because I remember this as dinosaurs, but with aliens.
It's not
okay.
a far
That's what it
stretch.
is.
And
Is this the worst thing with the name Henson on it?
It's up there.
It's gotta be.
Unless you want to count Ninja Turtles 3.
This is worse than Ninja Turtles 3.
no, Henson did not have anything to do with Ninja Turtles 3. They had already retired those costumes.
That's why they get the spots on them, the age spots.
The animatronics on the Turtles
Don't
3.
you put Ninja Turtles 3 on Jim
But
Henson, damn it.
Michelangelo from Turtles 1 and 2 is in this show.
Yes.
Is he?
Yes.
He is the body of Spike. Or Spit.
That was a hard thing to track because the credits, like the IMDb credits and everything, are so poorly put together because there's not enough on the show that it was tough to. They don't like differentiate like characters from the voice versus who's in the
body,
suit.
the puppeteers, yeah. And look, everybody who puppeteered on this and made these costumes and did all that stuff, no issue.
Oh,
Amazing.
yeah.
Really cool.
Visually, very well done, yeah.
But that's where the entire budget went. The entire budget went into those costumes because those effects are bad.
Here's the thing, though. Those costumes to me were fine. It's when they tried to do other things with them where it's like, let me pull my brain out. We're like, okay, this looks like fucking human garbage. What are you doing?
That's what I'm saying. That's not the costumes, though. That's the after effects.
And it's not
costumes are
puppeteers'
great.
faults who all have amazing credits. Like, everybody in this is like, I was in Muppets Take Manhattan. And you're like, Muppets Take My Money. I fucking love that. But this is not that.
The guy who played Michelangelo that you mentioned earlier, Joe, you would also know. So you know how like they sneak all of them into the movies.
Is it Keno? Not Keno, right?
No, he's not Keno. No, he's the one who was like the pizza guy though, like the Domino's pizza guy.
That he slips the money out.
Yeah.
I gotta get a better route. That guy.
Also, I don't know. Did you guys read this, which I think is way more interesting and like a womp womp as far as like TGIF and ABC goes? Third Rock from the Sun was originally supposed to air on ABC, but it had recently been bought by Disney. and the network dropped it because they want to do this more family-friendly alien show instead. So then NBC went on to buy the rights to Third Rock, which went on for 6 seasons.
Wow.
It was a good TV show. This show
A genuinely
lasted
good
2
TV show,
episodes.
and one we covered a while back. So if any of you guys are
Swing
fairly
and a
new to
miss.
us, yeah, you can go back and listen to us cover Third Rock from the Sun.
I really want to see the day that whatever CEO made that decision, the day where like 2 security guards are walking him out of his office with like a little banker's box with all his stuff in it, with like an Emmy falling over, and he's like, "But I've done other good stuff," and they're like, "We don't care. This was so bad, you're fucking fired, Bob."
That's got to be like the big mistake. That's one of those things that carry you around. Like that's your legacy. Oh, remember when Bill decided to get rid of Third Rock?
Now, question. So you said, Joe, that there was nothing on this, like as far as third-party articles and whatnot, correct?
I couldn't find anything contemporaneous to the
Does
time.
Gordo have a
about
gotcha moment?
So are we the first people to review and deep dive aliens in the family? Is
it.
this
No, because
our
people on like
legacy?
IMDb and stuff have reviews, but nobody at the time wanted to talk about it. Like I assumed there'd be like a scathing piece in like Entertainment Weekly or something that was like, "This is a nightmare," but it was so bad and gone so quick that people were just like, "It's not even worth."
I'm sure
Yeah.
things existed in the moment through like newspaper reviews and stuff, but it was right at that cusp of like the internet was obviously out in the mid 90s, but it wasn't what it is today. So not everything was being archived the same and saved properly. So
It also doesn't help too that there was a movie called Aliens in the Family from the 80s and a BBC show called Aliens in the Family as well.
Yep.
So you really get in a weird loop of trying to figure out what show you're talking about when you look for that stuff. So I could have missed something. I've always wanted to get one of those newspaper.com subscriptions where you can kind of search anything and they've got just like millions of years of archives for all these different papers.
All right, so you get that, and I'll finally get Paramount Plus.
Okay, and then we can share
We'll
passwords.
both commit to our subscriptions.
And then I'll use it to just look up reviews of Bar Rescue. It's not using it for the show.
So I wanted to bring this up as well before we get into it. This is a Ferg pick.
That's
And
right.
Ferg, who's taken a lot of pride in being the fake S1E1 champion, and everyone knows it's me, the Iron Man of S1E1. Ferg, you knew that this was a show that, we'll get into it, but not a slam dunk green light type of show. So what inspired you to pick such a offbeat show like this one?
Hatred.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown. I couldn't remain the champ that long. So I just put this one out there so I can start picking more shows to torture Joe for all the torture he's given me.
I mean, to be fair, if you were like, I want to make a show that tortures Joe and give a good pick for it, you found a good pick. Consider me tortured.
Especially if they had brought up like Rihanna or something in the middle of the
These damn quirky aliens.
The alien's just playing a ukulele. She kills
I'd
himself.
fucking jump out my window.
A couple weeks ago, we put out Happy Together, and, you know, hopefully most of you guys have listened to that. I was recently, like, listening back as I had to, like, pick clips and stuff like that. As I'm listening to it, there were points where, like, we're getting into debates and arguing, and that was, like, the most in a long time that, as a listener, I wanted to interject into the conversation again. Like, I had new points I wanted to make and argue.
Same. I had that feeling.
I do it every week when I listen.
So it's a
I'm like-
fun one, and it's tough to plug a lesser known show on another lesser known show. But if any of you guys are listening to this that haven't listened a couple weeks ago, go back and check out Happy Together.
I've ripped Happy Together so hard. The other day when I watched this, I was praying for Happy Together. I would have danced
Yeah,
naked on my roof if I could have watched Happy Together over this. This is a nightmare fuel.
which is interesting because, like, listen, I didn't love this show either, but like Dinosaurs was the second episode we ever did, and I always kind of have these like little regrets when we covered good shows early now because I feel like, at least I hope that we're better now than we were when we first started. Like, oh man, it would be nice to like talk about that a little bit better. To look at like a show that it would be the best comparison, like you mentioned earlier, and see just how different those roads went, with some of the same people behind like the animatronics and things like that. Very interesting. I think at this point we should just get into the episode itself. It should be a fun one to deep dive.
Not fun to deep dive.
The intro itself is just a cartoon, and it's explaining the story behind the show, which I kind of like this device to do that.
Very Hanna-Barbera, the cartoons as well.
You know what I thought it looked a
I
lot
got
like
I
was
Dream of Jeannie, right?
yes,
And Jetsons.
First,
I got
and then I
Jimmy,
got
yeah.
Ren and Stimpy.
You know what I thought?
Ren and Stimpy.
Well, when they
Who
pull
is
him up,
Who is Steppy?
Stampy?
Stimpy. Yeah, it's Stimpy.
Stimpy.
You know, Ron and Stompy.
What I thought watching the intro was the animation. The animation to me looked a lot like Dexter's Laboratory.
Yeah, I see that too.
And I was trying so hard to look up who did the animation for the show, but it just wasn't like out there. I couldn't find it in the credits or in anything written.
Oh,
But
for
I was
the
like-
show.
It looks so similar. I was like, I bet it's the same people doing the animation for it.
I want to know, who did Todd Rundgren owe money to?
An alien.
Yeah.
Like a legitimate rock star who produced some of the greatest records of all time and played on a lot of great records too, has been legitimately just in music, and he was the people they go to, he's the artist they go to see in the episode of that 70s show,
Yeah.
the pilot that we covered, right?
Yeah.
He produced Next Position Please by Cheap Trick. He produced the first New York Dolls album. He produced Bat Out of Hell. He is a hero among heroes. And somebody put a gun to his head and said, I need you to write a little jaunty tune for Aliens in the Family.
Well, it's not like they're like, hey, Todd, we want you to sit down and watch the whole season and then write a song based on your feelings about it. They're like, hey, we're ABC. Here's a giant check. We need a quick jingle for this show.
I hope it was a big check. I hope for him he was like, I'm buying a new pool.
Don't forget, Uncle Jesse also wrote jingles, so they get rock stars to write jingles.
That's true too, yeah. Meow, 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 meow. My favorite
Totally
one.
radio, a Ted's Tire Town.
The intro, though, we're seeing like in cartoon form, the story being told is a man's being abducted by aliens, and then the alien that's doing the actual examination on him, looking through like that like big like spyglass thing, falls in love with him instantly, reveals herself to be somewhat in human form as a female. The two, lock eyes, get married, and now they live together with their kids. So it's like step by step Brady Bunch with aliens.
It's very Brady Bunch because there's like the kids from both. Here's my question for you. Is Bobbert? I don't fucking care. Is
Bobbit?
the baby Bobbit? Again, I don't care. Is John Wayne Bobbitt the puppet? Is that their new baby together?
No, it's because she even says later in the episode that like he's supposedly like I forget already, but it's like he's the center of the universe, an important like person in their like culture.
But
Yeah,
that
I
doesn't
assume-
mean that he can't be his father.
Doesn't mean that he wasn't clapping alien cheeks.
Well, but if that was the case, though, there's no human DNA involved. He's full alien baby. So are we to believe that, like, they just got together? Like, this happened, like, yesterday? This dude's living in the house? Because that
No, we
baby's
don't
a
know how
baby.
these aliens age.
Yeah, and we don't know their ingestion period.
And you know what?
I hate this conversation.
To tie this back into dinosaurs, I feel like they thought Bobbit would be like the baby, like
Yep,
Sinclair.
No, for sure.
And they really wanted
Gestation
that.
period.
But it would have been
That
interesting
makes
if
sense
they...
because the majority of this episode I was going, not the podcast, not the podcast, not the podcast while I watched this.
I would have liked to have seen, though, maybe them create Bobbit in a way that was a little bit more hybrid, because I was under the impression that maybe it was the product of both parents.
No. So think about this, right? You have
Here we
two
go.
dogs or two cats, right? And they're different colors. So the first batch might just be, all orange. Say you have an orange cat and a black cat. The first one might be all black or all orange. It takes on the dominant DNA
Gordo, we
gene.
understand how genetics work, but they're still cats.
All right, but
this is not a human baby.
Yeah.
How do you know he doesn't have a giant human dong?
What the fuck? First off, you're talking about a baby dick, whether it's an alien or a human.
You're crossing a territory I would never cross into, and that's saying something.
Come on, Joe.
You have done that before. Like, not in, like, recently.
Never extraterrestrial babies. Okay?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Only human baby dongs are on the table for Joe.
Well, it depends on the baby. I mean, they might be older babies too. It's hard to gauge.
On the baby? What the fuck does that mean?
To dial this back a little bit and just talk about the intro as a whole, guys. How did you feel about just this device, the kind of storytelling through the intro? I thought, for what it's worth, I kind of like using this to tell a story.
I mean, as the 1 minute of this episode that wasn't any of the characters being on screen, it's probably my favorite part of this whole episode.
Well, I mean, to be serious for a moment and think about all the shows we cover and all the different ways to intro the show, and so many pilots feel the need to describe the whole premise within the show because you're new to it. I kind of like something that's like, here's what's going on, now let's get into the world. Like, so I did appreciate that.
Yeah, but we already have questions that haven't been answered, so it didn't do a great job.
Well, it's not going to answer everything, but I think it gives you enough that you can like see this wild thing where there's an alien and a human married and not be like, wait, what's going on here?
No, I appreciate the I Dream of Jeannie and Jetsons aspect of it, for sure, that like tells a story without the lyrics sort of having to do it, but again, the fact that we still have questions is probably an issue if that's the device you're going to go with.
I'm guessing this was the only way they could do it. They spent all that money on the Henson like suits and stuff. They didn't have the money to do a proper episode where they do the whole he gets abducted. They show the entire backstory. You see a spaceship, you see space, everything. So doing it in cartoon form and just putting you right in the middle of the story, I think it worked.
I would say knowing what we know now about how much it would probably cost to physically make the alien animatronics, and you look at the rest of the show, you can see that's where the budget went. There's not a lot of money spent elsewhere in this episode.
No.
And look, I think it's great that they actually used Henson puppets, animatronics. That's amazing, because now this show would all be CGI. They wouldn't give people who have this like amazing craft to like make these things that look so cool, right? That's why Sesame Street works. It's why the Muppets work, because they're physical beings in this world.
Well, it's TGIF. I mean, this was expected to be something big when you look at the track record. And I think TGIF, it's like ABC and TGIF is interesting when you look at it because they have so many monster hit shows that came out of that. But when you really deep dive all the aliens of the families of the world, there's a lot of shows that had a cup of coffee that like didn't work. It's just that they had so many hits that as a whole, we look at it as a win being on TGIF.
Well, yeah, I mean, isn't Friday typically the bad day? Like if you're a network show and you get put on a Friday, that's not good.
Maybe nowadays.
Well, that's the beauty of TGIF though, is because it was for a demographic of people who would be home. If you've got kids who are between the ages of like 5 and 11 or 12 and their parents, they're all going to be home on Friday night. That's why like wrestling typically doesn't work on a Friday night, right? Things like that, because it's for an older group of people who are going to be out doing stuff.
That's why like Thursday is like the monster, like all the big shows that are more towards like older teens into young adults and so on is like, that's Thursday night.
And TGF was smart too, because all of their tie-ins were always with like fast food places too, where they were like, TGIF and Domino's Pizza, like get a pizza with your family, watch all 2 hours of it, right? Like, so it was built in to be like kids who are younger, parents are gonna order pizza.
And it's
Friday
such a
night.
Bummer that we don't have that. Like, I mean, yeah, there's shows that still come out, weekly on certain days and stuff like that, but like that event like that doesn't exist anymore, and it's kind of a bummer.
And now if there is event watching, like if you love a show that's weekly, you watch it the next day on demand.
Right, yeah.
One of these days, they're going to have an executive be like, I say we bring back TGIF, and it's going to be a big event, and then it's going to suck.
Oh, yeah, it's going to blow. Because you don't have the technology. Like, how else were you going to watch these shows except to tune in to TGIF?
You had to watch it live, yeah.
You had to.
If you missed it, you hoped you caught it in the summer on a rerun. That was it.
There's no way that it can be that big event anymore. Not going to happen.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah.
So now let's get back into shitting on this show. The first scene, we have Cookie, who's the mother, and she's walking the new nanny into the baby's room. And right off the bat, you can see the mom has like, it's tough because the quality we watch, full disclosure, you can find the show on YouTube if you want to watch it. The quality version we had was not like phenomenal. It was good enough to cover the show. The sides of her head were like these almost like plastic, fin, scaly type things like on the sides of her
were
head.
they like gills? Like I don't even know. Like
I thought gill slits, yeah.
But if you weren't paying enough attention, it could easily
kinda
just
looked
look like
gray hair.
gray hair,
almost.
slick back gray hair.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It looked like she had like the like when you see horror women, sometimes they have like the shocking gray part, like a
Lily
Bride of
Munster?
Frankenstein.
Yeah. What's her
If you
name on
watched
Monster?
the cartoon intro, you'd get a better vibe for what that was
Yeah.
supposed to be. Yeah, so the two are walking into the baby's room and like woke it up. The baby is Bobit, we mentioned before. Wasn't entirely sure if Bobit was a boy or a girl. I think boy, but then like every time the father would talk, it was a lot of like, not that it's completely one way or another, but it was a lot of honey and sweetheart and stuff like, which is typically of like your like female baby, but
Well, if it's a girl, Gordo's gonna be super sad when he wants to see that giant boy
alien
dong
baby
and it
dick,
doesn't have one.
No, but I think the mother refers him to as a he later in the episode when she's talking to the
It doesn't even kind of matter.
yeah.
It like
for
literally
that-
doesn't matter.
For the sake of argument, I'm going to go with he a lot because that's what I wrote in the notes moving forward.
Bobert's a very masculine name, all right? It's definitely a he.
So when Bobit wakes up, you hear him say, "Speak your mission." And before even like getting too much farther, I want to get over or go over how the alien looks and the voice. And we talked a bit about it being a Jim Henson thing. I thought it was too much. Now, I think the animatronics would be fine. If this was like dinosaurs and it was a world that it was only aliens and there were no humans, I think it would have been okay. But in this like merged world, I thought the scale and the way they looked was so exaggerated. It didn't work for me. I like when you look at the one picture of the show you can find when you Google it of the family like on the steps, it just looks so weird to have them all together.
I'm sure we talked about this before too on dinosaurs, but like they weren't all exact sort of replicas of the parents type of dinosaur, but they were all types of dinosaurs you knew. So your brain kind of just took like, oh, they're dinosaur people.
Yeah, I don't know any of these aliens.
Yeah, like why does one of them have spiky hair? Why does one of them look completely different? Why does one look like the baby from dinosaurs? Like it doesn't make any sense.
I just thought the overall character looked like the developed what they thought the aliens should look like were just the scale to human just looked too off. I don't know. It was too exaggerated for me.
Have you guys ever played that game Spore?
No, that's not real.
Yes, it is. And you could create aliens, and that's kind of what this baby looked like. Was like the model of Spore. Like, look it up, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
I also took issue with the baby's voice was so fake alien voice.
It was
and
like
then-
50s alien. Like,
and no one else in the family talks that way. Like, so the other aliens don't talk like this.
Why
So-
is it robotic? You're not a robot, you're an alien. And sometimes he acts like a baby, sometimes he acts like he's not a baby. I don't know. I hated this character a lot.
My next question comes into the scene too, where I'm like, is alien and human cohabitation a thing that happens in the world that we're living in? Or does nobody just give a shit that this guy married an alien and has alien kids too, who go to their high school? They don't explain that ever.
But here's the thing, though. The wife is humanoid.
but Joe, remember I told you before we even started, I had one glaring issue. It's that's not answered.
So we'll see this throughout the episode, but yeah, to talk about it, there's no point when the nanny or the people at the country club or the other kids, aliens just exist here. It's just a thing. Nobody at any point is going like, what the fuck? Like, it doesn't happen once. Everyone's just okay with the world that there's aliens living in the town.
But they only exist in this family. When they go to
you don't
other
see any
parts of the
others.
show, yeah, you'd be like, an alien waiter walks by, I'd be like, fine. I know what world we live in.
Right.
So in the intro, though, if you guys really deep dived and pay attention, it said Wedding of the Century Time Magazine. So they were on the cover of Time Magazine.
Okay.
Look, Gordo, you know what, Gordo? I'm going to give this to you.
But yeah, you're right. You got it. That nails it. I hate it, but you're right. I don't hate that you said it. I hate that the show did it. It doesn't make sense for the show.
I hate that Gordo said it because usually Gordo's the one that we have to argue for not paying attention to anything. And somehow this is where he put a microscope to the fucking screen and wanted to catch everything.
Well, as the only person who'll greenlight this, he had to find every detail he possibly could.
Moving forward again. So to continue on with the scene, Bobitz goes, I am Bobit, the displeased. And then the nanny's like, I am Sally, the nanny. He's like, not funny, device mimicry.
I love you doing the voice.
Yeah, I really enjoy you doing the voice. I'm like, how about you just do the whole thing and we do just like a
I felt bad for the nanny because she's trying so hard to just be, you know, a fun nanny.
A fanny, if you will.
You're right. And Cookie leaves so the two can get to know each other a little bit better. And Bobit tells Sally that he wants pudding. And she's like, oh, I don't think that's like such a good idea in the morning. And you just hear, no, and like the room shakes because...
When I wanted to give this show a chance, when the room shook at this point, I was like, fuck. And then I looked down, and again, Jay, you mentioned it, there's a YouTube version of this show, is the only thing you can see. When I first watched this show and thought it was 28 minutes long, I almost cried. And when he said, no, and everything shook, and I looked down and it said 27 minutes, I contemplated so many dark things to do versus doing this episode.
In all fairness, it wasn't a 28-minute show. It had commercials because we watched the YouTube version.
When you don't know that the commercials are in the version we watched.
This is pre-commercial, and you look at the time and you're like, how dare the world do this to us?
So we cut to the kitchen, and we see two of the kids in the family. And like we said, they're both are coming into this relationship with kids of their own. So it's a hybrid of alien children and human children.
One time when this alien met this lady, it's like very...
Yeah, so one's like a teenage girl, and the other one's like a teenage boy who happens to be a 7-foot alien in a plaid shirt.
Who looks very much like the son in Dinosaurs.
Eddie? Or...
Yes. You know what I thought he was, though? He was like the hybrid of Robbie Sinclair and his buddy Spike.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that why I called him Spike at the beginning? Maybe my brain was doing that.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, me too.
Because he spit, yeah. So I thought it was kind of like the mix between the two is what they were going for. Because Robbie Sinclair from Dinosaurs is a little bit more upbeat and like energetic, where he's got that like slow kind of stoner vibe almost.
He's got like a too cool for school thing too, where he's like,
yeah.
I would like to say this scene though would never be an issue at Stanley Hudson from The Office's house, because Stanley Hudson, as we know, has 2 toasters.
That's true. Now I have 2 toasters. Yeah, so Spit is cooking toast, and when it pops up into the air, he catches the toast in his mouth and swallows it whole. I didn't mind that. And then when she goes to use the toaster, Heather, his sister, he just grabs it from her and then crunches it up and eats it. And you see him like suck the cord up like it's a piece of spaghetti. And she's like, what are you doing? He goes, there are crumbs in it.
I love this voice.
I love that you're going to be doing this whole thing in character.
This reminded me too, to go to a better sitcom, I always think of every time I use the toaster, there's an episode of Married with Children when there's no food in the house.
Toaster leave-ins.
Yeah, toaster leave-ins, where they just eat the crumbs, and I was like, oh, he would have at least gotten the toaster leave-ins.
When you talk about dumb shit that you just never forget, and it's like that insignificant part of a random episode of Married with Children.
Yep, we all have it.
Yeah, and she's like, you know, she wanted to use it to, you know, make her own toast, and he's like, get your own toaster to eat. And the two start arguing, which makes the parents walk in, and that's when we meet the dad, whose name's Doug, and he's telling Heather that, you know, you need to get along with your brother. He has this very generic TV dad type vibe to him.
I don't blame this guy. Doug Brody is the actor's name. He's in Chud. He's in The Abyss. He's the mayor in Super Troopers.
Character's name is Doug Brody.
Yeah, this is John Bedford Lloyd.
I'm sorry, yeah, John Bedford Lloyd as Doug Brody. But, like, he's the mayor in Super Troopers.
Yeah, spread it on. With the shotgun.
He's in The Abyss, the fucking James Cameron movie. That's a great, insane movie. Like, and that's all pre this. He did The Abyss and then was like, I will be the dad in Aliens in the Family.
Again, when you sign up to projects...
Yeah, you don't know that they're going to be this bad. Like, you know, especially on the heels of things like Dinosaurs that did really well.
Yeah,
like, there's...
Sure.
And, you know, you're getting sold like a salesman, too. Like, a salesman is selling the actor this show, right? They're not going to be like, well, it might suck if you want to do it. You know, they're going to pump it up.
Speaking of salesmen, too, in my notes, I did write at one point that he reminds me so much of Biff in Death of a Salesman. He's such the, like, trod upon, like... He's Gil from The Simpsons, who's basically Biff from Death of a Salesman. Yeah, he's like, oh, I wish I got a leg up at work. Oh, God, don't put him on the phone. It's like, oh, God.
This goes back to the whole, like, Todd Rundgren thing, too. It's you're being sold this idea of, hey, we got this great idea. And honestly, even the people who make the show, they don't know it's going to suck yet. They all believe this is going to be good.
I like your concession because you're always so good about not giving your hand, but you just said people don't know it's going to suck yet, which you couldn't help but say that you can't not say it sucks.
It's one of those, hey, we have this idea for a show. It's going to be on TGIF. We're putting it right on a great time slot. We're going to, it's going to be kind of like a typical family sitcom meets dinosaurs, only with aliens. Like, on paper, this all makes sense to them. And
Jim
they think
Henson's
it's gonna be
involved.
this big hit. Yeah, Jim Henson's involved.
Yeah,
So
I
like,
get why everybody signed on, for sure. I don't blame anybody for signing on.
And it's one of those, I've heard actors talk about it too. Like, you get the script and it sounds good. And then once you're like in the building and you're recording, you go like, uh-oh.
Yeah, like, oh no, we're fucked.
Spit, we find out, during this argument, we find out that Spit is a family name, which means handsome warrior. And he says like, oh, to Heather, like, do you want to know what your name means in my planet? Or should I say gum disease?
So
then I
stupid.
wanted a commercial from their language being like a person brushing their teeth and being like, Heather! Like, why would they not lean into it?
There's also that point where she accuses him of stealing her hydrating shampoo, but we realize that it was one of the other alien children, Snizzy, because she's at the dinner table and she burps up bubbles.
I actually like Snizzy because she's normal. Like, she just seems like a normal kid.
She does, like, so does Spit to a degree, but yeah, she's like
It seems like a teenager, for sure.
The dynamic between Snizzy and then Adam, who's like the human counterpart child that's like to her age, like, they get along. They're just regular friends. They're about the same age. Like, that kind of makes sense throughout the episode.
No, agreed.
We get a quick cut to Sally and Bobit in the living room playing like roll the ball. And he just beans her in the head and like knocks her down.
This poor woman is trying so hard.
But later you see her and she's in a sling. Was the ball what hurt her?
I don't know. I saw that, and we'll talk about that because that specific thing was something that bothers me later on.
I imagine she slipped on an errant pudding wrapper.
Now we get back to Doug and Cookie talking, and Doug mentions that he wishes that the kids would get along better, and he feels bad because he feels like, I made them move all the way to this planet, and now they're sharing a bathroom. Like, I wish I could afford a bigger house. And she's like, call me a sentimental old fool, but I say when a woman abducts a man from a house, they stay there.
Not funny. Can't handle it.
Have we talked about how the mother is a stone cold fox?
So I'm glad you mentioned this because I wanted to bring this up at some point. So Margaret Trigg is the woman who plays Cookie. She, if you look at her acting credits, didn't have much else. This was like her last thing. So now she passed in 2003. So Margaret Trigg, I ended up reading a long New York Post article about her. Margaret Trigg ended up having like severe body dysmorphia. Was unaware that she was like, as you said, like a stone cold fox. She was a beautiful woman. She really was. But from when she was young, she just like, she got, I guess it all stemmed like, I guess in school, like when she was a kid, they teased her for like having a big butt.
Because of the gills she had?
Yes, because the gills. First off, like, how dare these idiot kids tease any girl for having a big butt? But, so she's like, she had like severe body dysmorphia. I think by the time she recorded this show, had like one nose job done. But then afterwards, all the money she made from this show, which was in the six figures for doing like, 8 episodes of a primetime television show, was all spent towards surgeries. And she got to this point of like, she developed a eating disorder, and she just kind of like was one of those girls who kind of lost her mind over the years and like had a hard time with like food. And she had all these like pictures of herself, I guess, that were like 8x10s of her, like shots of her face that she would draw all over and like point out like parts of her face that she thought needed adjusting. And it just got to a point where like she was starting to come to, I guess, but it was like way too late in life. And she was getting surgeries, and she was like having to shop doctors because most of them wouldn't even like operate on her anymore because her face was so messed up. Kind of a sad story. So sorry to like pivot as you mentioned this, but like it was something I had read and I found it really interesting. I think it's like, this is obviously an episode in the show that we're going to joke a lot about, but I thought it really stood out to me because I'm watching and going over my notes, and I'm looking at her. I'm like, wow, like, you're a very beautiful woman. And like, for the dialogue and what you're given here, I was like, she could have, under different circumstances, been on a better show and been the mom on some other show that would have been wildly successful, and your life's completely different. And I was like, why is her like IMDb so short? And then to see that she passed, and just kind of like that note of, you know, you don't know what's going on with a person. Like, I know it's like I'm killing the vibe of the show a little bit right now,
Yeah,
but
big time.
But I don't know. I just thought it was really important to kind of note, because like such a beautiful girl and just didn't realize it. And I think there's something to be said there. And like, and for people to listen, to realize, like, kind of know your worth and not get so locked into that.
Yeah, that's a super bummer.
You want to talk about the death of Robin Williams next?
No, when we do Mork and Mindy.
Okay,
So enough serious, and I guess we'll move.
But yeah, no, that's a super bummer, and like I'm sad to hear that she's good in Rotor, but it's sad when you see people who have like we see a lot of small IMDb and listings, right? And usually it's because they're just like not good actors or kids. It's sad to see that's because somebody passed away from something so sad, and I do feel very bad about that.
She died from surgery? I missed that part.
No,
Like,
she was like very weak from having an eating disorder and things like that.
Oh.
She died from
okay.
an amphetamine overdose.
Oh, that's terrible.
Her heart just couldn't take it, I assume, because of the eating.
Yeah, she was in a facility towards the end of her life. She was like being prescribed things for all her mental issues.
As somebody who's done amphetamines before, you definitely feel like your heart's gonna explode, and you can overdo that real easy. So that's a bummer.
Yeah. So to get back into the episode itself,
Now, let's get back to the funny.
yeah. So one thing I wanted to say about the show itself, though, was kind of the use of like this, like, okay, we get it, you're aliens. And I would have just preferred show me, don't tell me. And it was a lot of jokes and stuff throughout the episode where they're like, oh, you know, it was just too, like, the dialogue kept having to drive in the point. We're aliens from another area. Like, you know, we see that.
There was one specific joke where they do that in this where I actually timed it. And I was so angry about the joke that I timed how long it went. And that was when I like officially was like, I can't do this anymore.
I just felt like just live your lives kind of normal. And, you know, it's, we covered, for reasons, you know, Cavemen a long time ago, a show I actually really liked, and we've covered it. You know, there's references once in a while, but like what I liked about the show is they just lived normal lives and happened to be cavemen. And like, yeah, culturally some things would be different. This was a constant like, oh, by the way, we're aliens. Oh, we're aliens. Because we're aliens, this happens. And I was like, okay, just dial up, just be aliens in the real world and let's move forward.
Just be aliens.
Doug wishes that he had some sort of an advantage at work because he hasn't had a raise in years, and he compares himself to all his other like coworkers that, you know, seem to be up the boss's ass a little bit. And Cookie reminds him, well, if he didn't like you, then like why would his wife have me and Bobit over for a play date today?
Every time you say Bobit, seriously, I like die a little bit inside. It's so hard.
So Doug runs up to Bobit and reminds him, you know, hey, play nice today and don't hurt the boss's baby because daddy needs a new promotion. And then Bobit asks Doug to read him Pat the Bunny. And he says, sure. And he sits with him and they go over like a couple pages of the book and exchange kisses before heading to work. You get that goofy cheek pull thing when Bobit kisses his dad's cheek where like his cheek expands and like follows his lips.
It looks like the Scorpions album Animal Magnetism's cover.
I'll say this, though. Almost every interaction with the dad and Bobit, though, I thought was very sweet. And it was like one of the few things I really liked about
There was
the
a
show.
point later that
Yeah.
I did like. When we'll get to it.
The cheek thing was corny.
The cheek thing was very
I'm not sticking up for that. I'm just
No.
saying their love was like real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy too. If we decided, I think we've decided that he's taking them on as like a step parent, that he cares about the baby so much and they care about each other so much. That's very sweet. My question for you guys: has anybody ever read Pat the Bunny? Because I was not familiar with this book as a kid.
Like as a
No,
kid, yeah.
I don't
I feel
think
like
so.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it sounded familiar, so I figured it was real.
Apparently, it's only one page because he only ever reads one page to him.
I have kids, I guess, like the one page.
It's what I mean. I've read like books like that to my niece, where it's like they have like little interactive, like feel, you know,
Yeah.
like the fur or whatever. So like that's why kids like them. It's not even the story; it's like that they get to play along.
They just re-released it a couple of years ago. You can buy it for like $9 online. I did some weird deep dive into this. And the re-release is like the expanded edition that now contains 4 pages from the original 1940 version that were taken out. And I was like, what were in that? What would they feel like in 1940? They were like, that's too far.
I was
They
like, oh
put it
good,
back in
oh
now.
good, they re-released the racist version as a deluxe form.
Right. It's like the buddy's like punching the Axis powers or something. He's like, take that, Hirohito. We're like, wait a minute, what's happening in this book?
So now we get to the next scene where it's that play date at the boss's house. And we start by seeing Bobit and the boss's baby like playing on the rug. And Bobit's like, telling the other baby to stop the incoherent babbling. And it pans over to the moms who are chatting. And Cookie's telling her like this casual story, the other mother, about how she was so busy at work back in the day that she missed her daughter losing her first ear.
Fuck me.
Yeah, and this is when I noted, we talked about it earlier, this like idea of, so aliens just exist here and that's normal, I guess. Cookie's also going through old photos to show this one that has the 2 oldest kids with their dad, and talks about how he was never there for the kids, but at least they got his looks. And you see that like the dad looks exactly like, those 2 kids. Just like that big exaggerated alien.
So I think that shows that Bobit's his, because he looks like the other 3, the dad and the 2 brother and sister.
No. See, I thought that because Bobit wasn't in the family.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's
portrait-
what my problem was. Bobit wasn't in the picture.
Yeah, because he was in her tummy.
He might not have been born
Yeah,
yet.
but was he in her tummy because she was cheating on the husband with Doug?
with Dirty Doug.
We also don't know what's like the incubation period of a alien pregnancy.
I don't know. Are they more fertile or less fertile?
No, but she doesn't look like the other kids. So
They make a reference to her that she has like long hair.
the fact that the other 2 kids look like the dad and Bobit also looks like the dad, I would assume that he's the dad of Bobit, not the human.
Look at my dog and cat reference.
It didn't make any sense.
Cat dog?
Don't make me go over it again.
I don't want you to, because it didn't make a lot of sense the first time. I know it did.
Dominant genes come out.
Are dominant
So-
genes expensive? I need new genes.
Okay, so the dominant genes thing would disprove your point.
If
Because
you
he doesn't
think-
look like the mother, he looks like the other alien's dad.
Because the mother's got
So the dominant
alien
genes-
DNA. It's like, like people who have like
Stop giving the show credit. They didn't even think about it.
No,
so we
they
I
should
like
didn't.
the idea of
They
a
didn't.
genetic scientist listening to this episode and then blowing their brains out and being like, I can't do it anymore.
So
This
at
is
one
also the
point-
scene too where this is the most aggravating scene of the entire episode to me. Was she was like, you can call me Cookie. It's short for hubba hubba. And then it goes on. I timed it 7 fucking seconds.
It was way too long.
It was way too long.
She was right. It was short for that.
True.
I hated that moment.
Right
I
after
love that you feel how you make me feel every time you make a pick.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did Major Dad make you as angry?
You created a monster because I need this now.
Did Major Dad find a new girlfriend who was a fucking alien? No.
No, but you also made me watch California Dreams, which I think is on par with this as bad.
I'll say, listen, I don't think that show is great, but out of all the shows we've covered, Ferg brings us up all the time, and I don't think it was so bad that Ferg should be this mad about it for so long.
This to me is maybe the worst show we've done. This is worse to me than Homeboys in Outer Space, especially if we're going by alien shows. Gordo, congratulations.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm
I don't know.
So we cut back to the kids, and the baby's just kind of normal baby gibberish, and Bobit's like, "What is goo goo? What is gaga? Define."
Who are the Goo Goo Dolls?
When the baby's unable to do that because it's a baby, Bobit gets like some laser blaster thing and like uses it to open the door, and then the baby crawls in, and then he uses it again to shut the door, so now the baby's trapped in the closet.
I know we bring it up all the time. This is a Muppets show. When they open the closet, should have been the Third Reich version.
Hey, in all fairness, Spider-Man was in there before too, so it's not necessarily the Third Reich in that closet.
So when Bobit sees his dad's boss, he's like on the phone, and he blasts him with that like same door opening laser gun. And while it's like the laser's still like attached to him, he's like, give daddy the promotion now. And you like see smoke like frying this dude's brain as he's doing
Stupid, yeah.
which is like noted in the next scene when you see Cookie and Bobit in the car driving home and she's questioning what he did to Mr. Bellamy. And Bobit insists he didn't do anything, but also says that all their problems are solved now and to drive faster because Lamb Chop is on. I loved Lamb Chop as a kid, by the way.
Oh yeah, I love that show.
Me too.
I was never into Lamb Chop.
I loved it. And it's one of those, I don't know why.
My sister loved it. I liked Sherry, Lois, and Bram.
The Skinny Marinky Dinky Dink.
Yeah, and does your chewing gum lose its flavor?
Yeah, because no, Bobit's younger than us. I was going to say, like, this came out in the mid-90s, so we got some years on him.
I think our assumption is Bobit is born in 1995 or
Ish,
6?
yeah. Not knowing, like, how they age, but yeah.
Which is weird. It means Bobit would be, like, 28 now. Like, where's Bobit now? What's he up to?
Yeah.
He's walking around looking like Spike. I'm sorry, Spit. Now I did it.
Wasn't that Spike? That's a reference to the movie, Chuck Norris's Child movie.
So in the next scene, there's a board meeting in session. And two of the guys Doug mentioned earlier are both, like, standing by Mr. Bellamy's side, kind of, like, being typical kiss asses. When he decides to cut everyone off and say, he must promote Brody now in that same alien cadence that Bobit speaks in, and announces that Brody is a new vice president of sales in the Pacific Rim region. One of the guys stands up and says, wait a minute, I was promised that job. I was contractually guaranteed. That man is Aaron Eckhart, who is like you would know as Two-Face in The Dark Knight. And Thank You for Smoking.
Oh man, I love Thank You for Smoking.
That was a good movie. But yeah, I was like, wait a minute. It's just so funny to see like where some of these guys are before they become famous. Now, like those two like kiss-ass guys from earlier both stand up and they congratulate the boss's decision. And now they're both talking like aliens to like just follow suit to what he's doing.
This is not enjoyable.
No. And then like that next scene, we're back at home and Sally's scrambling to make this large vat of pudding, like a ton of pudding. And Bobit sends her off to get him a sweater or something because he's cold. So she leaves the room. And right as she's leaving the room, the other two younger kids, Snizzy and Adam, both walk in from school. And as it turns out, the teacher picked Adam to bring home the class frog. And he sets it on the counter. And then the two start like going through the cabinets or they're doing something. But while they're doing so, the frog and Bobit like lock eyes. And it like, I don't know if it scared the frog or what, but the frog jumps out of the small tank and right into the boiling pudding. And like when you see it, like the frog's legs are like sticking up as it like sinks into the boiling pudding. I was
They
like,
just
this is
murder a frog.
Did anybody else envy the frog at this point?
Yes. Oh my god. Death by pudding would be so much better than the next 20 minutes of the show.
This got my first real laugh of the episode, though. It was when Bobit goes, my pudding!
My pudding. So we cut to the living room and Heather's on the phone gossiping with one of her friends and Spit asks if he can use the phone and she tells him that if you're hungry, there's a clock in the other room. So he bends over to her and then shows her his brain and not his balls, like his actual brain. And which is like kind of like this yellow glowing brain thing. And then like pops his eyes out later on too, like all these little things to annoy his sister while she's on the phone. And then Dad runs in and announces that he has a new promotion and talks about all the perks, like including membership to the country club. So then Heather notes that one of the popular girls in her school has parents that go to that country club too. And now that, the two are going to be able to be friends and she's not going to have anything to worry about for the rest of her life. And Spit goes, except for that meteor in 20 years. And then like Mom gives him like this shut up look and he's like, they don't know. And
I did laugh at this.
That was the line that got me. That
was the one time I laughed.
That's how Dinosaurs ends.
Yeah. So, well, luckily, guys, we made it because that would have been, 2016?
Yeah, we're okay. We're safe.
Imagine the show was like, they'll be fine until that plague in 2020. Like, oh my God.
So now the parents are in the kitchen and Doug is saying how it feels great knowing that all the guys in the company who thought he was never going to go anywhere are seeing this. And Cookie says like, she has to tell him something and explains what happened with Bobit and like, he's just completely fine with it. He says something about like how it's fair to have an unfair advantage basically. And my thing was, shouldn't he have known anyways when his boss started talking like an alien?
The dictation, yeah.
Yeah. Because he has alien children now.
Yeah, like, wait a minute, something's off. And it wasn't like nobody noticed because the other two guys started talking that way to be kiss asses. So it was noticeable.
It's almost like they didn't think about anything they were doing as they wrote this show.
And then right after, Cookie's reminding him, like, oh, we have to get ready for Heather's swim show. He's like, oh, I don't have time. I have, like, all these calls I got to make with these guys from Japan. We cut to Adam and Snizzy trying to figure out what to do with this frog. And Snizzy's about to make, like, the suggestion, but gets cut off by the sound
weird sentence.
gets cut off by the sound of Doug's business call in Japan. And they cut over to that. And you see the man, like, on the line is speaking to him in Japanese. Well, you hear it, not see it, rather. He's like, oh, yeah, sorry. The only line I know in Japanese is sayonara. He goes, sayonara. And he hangs up. He's like, no.
This was the only funny part of the show, in my opinion.
It's funny because they do it twice, and the second time makes it funnier.
Yeah, because he just hangs up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I want to bring up here, too, Ferg, do you know that the kid who plays Adam is one of the kids from Freddy vs. Jason?
Oh, really? Which one?
Yeah. I forget what kid he is. Luckily, he's not the one who calls him the hard F word. That's the girl from Destiny's Child, right?
Yeah. Snizzy and Adam are trying to tell their dad what had happened with the frog, but he doesn't have any time to talk to them. And says he has to get the guy back on the phone. And when he does, like, that whole kind of bit happens again where he's like, oh, sorry, you know, when I said sayonara, I keep wanting to say sayonatra. I don't know. When he goes
Frank
like,
Sinatra.
it repeats again where the guy's like, oh, sayonara, and hangs up.
What a happy Japanese man.
And now Snizzy's telling Adam, like, let's head to the garage. And now we cut to the kids in the garage where it's basically like this whole science lab setup. And Snizzy's using some plutonium to, like, reanimate the frog.
But yeah, you just get plutonium as a child anywhere you want.
Doc Brown did it.
He's a scientist, and he's 40.
So
this is an 8-year-old.
Well, she has a more evolved chemistry set, which was, you know, brought up by her brother.
Also, Doc Brown, to do that, had to lie to a bunch of Libyan terrorists who were trying to make a nuclear bomb. I feel like there's a different story here.
That's true.
Maybe she lied to an alien terrorist to make a nuclear bomb.
Maybe she's a Libyan terrorist.
Maybe.
Run, Marty, it's an alien!
I did like the line when Snizzy says, some societies believe that bringing the dead back to life should be strictly the province of deity. But I say, kids could have fun with it too.
I would have laughed if afterwards she went, Mick World! But other than that, they can't handle this comment.
And then after, like, this big blast, we start to hear the frog ribbit again. So it worked. They got the frog back to life.
Yay.
Yeah. And in the next scene, Cookie and Bobit are in the kitchen where they're laughing over a book she's reading. Which was, like, it was very unnatural because, I don't know, it didn't seem like she was reading a children's book and, like, the babies
That's
just
what
laughing
was
along.
unnatural about it?
Again, it felt off. More so than other things here. And Dad walks through and he's in a rush to get to work. And Bobit wants him to read Pat the Bunny to him again. But he doesn't have any time and runs off. As we saw earlier, took all of 10 seconds to just, you know, go over the one page with him. So, like, easily could have. And Bobit says that this was unacceptable and in protest must throw his breakfast against the wall. And you see the door open and Sally start to walk through just in time to get hit with a bowl of pudding.
Poor Sally.
Which in my notes I wrote, of course.
And now Adam and Snizzy return to the garage the next morning to grab the frog before heading to school, only to reveal that this frog is now grown about 10 times the size. And we see, like, the frogs, like, the way it's like a forced perspective.
Yeah, it's like superimposed.
They just have the frog, like, closer to the camera or whatever, so it, like, looks big, but it's just like this toy frog essentially with glowing red eyes.
Yeah, they play this trick a few different times, and it gets worse and worse as it goes.
It got boiled to death in pudding. It should have been burnt. Should have been like
That's true.
Freddy Krueger
It should
frog.
be a gooey pudding frog, goddammit.
Yeah,
You couldn't
Froggy
think to say
Krueger.
Froggy Krueger in that moment?
Not on the spot, no.
Wait, so Adam creates Froggy Krueger? That makes a backstory for his character in Freddy vs. Jason now.
There you
That
go.
makes so much sense. I guess a quick pivot just to clue you guys in. So our buddy Ferg here claims to be this huge fan of Nightmare on Elm Street. And recently it was discovered that a few months ago when him and I were in LA, turns out we were staying like 5 minutes away from the house from Nightmare on Elm Street. And not once did he bring up that we should go and visit it.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't take me to the Henson studio.
No, we drove by. I didn't notice until we drove by, and I'm the only one who noticed. But I just thought it was a little interesting for someone who claims to be such a big Freddy Krueger fan. that we could be so close to the, iconic house, and he didn't even want to look at it.
Could have went to the boiler room too. We just didn't have time.
Where's the boiler room?
Same
In
area.
the basement.
Is it like in a school or something? Thank you, Gordo. I appreciate your candid
So
commentary.
it's near the stadium where Jay went to the baseball game. It was like little area where they shoot a lot of like stuff like that, like old buildings and stuff. And that's where the boiler room was.
It is genuinely fun, though, getting to go to filming locations like that. I went to the football field where Dirty Harry shoots the serial killer. I was in San Francisco the first time, and I was like the happiest human in the world, and nobody else really cared about it.
That tracks.
Oh, this is from Dirty Harry.
Thank you for such an accurate representation of my voice right there.
That was you being quirky, like Zoe Deschanel.
Yeah, I wrote a song about it on my ukulele that's also a xylophone, as I was so excited about it.
Cutting back into this, we're back in the living room. We see Heather watching Newt Gingrich on the TV, and Spit goes, "Oh my God, it's evil Krog. I thought he'd been sent to the Phantom Zone."
Didn't expect them to throw like super politics into this episode, where I was like, this doesn't. I mean, I don't like Newt Gingrich, but this doesn't belong here.
It was very random, but I mean, you got to remember the times. But yeah, even then, you're like Newt Gingrich.
Also, really generic writing because the Phantom Zone's from DC Comics. That's where Superman sends like all the big villains.
Oh,
That, like,
cool.
he can't-
Thanks, nerd.
It's telling you.
Is that where the opera happens?
That's where General Zod and the other Kryptonians are all trapped.
Oh, in that piece of glass.
Yeah, that's the Phantom Zone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the doorbell rings, and Heather says it's Tiffany Kendall, who's one of the cool kids. Before Heather lets her in, she shoves Spit in the closet. And while the girls are talking, Spit shoots his eye through the keyhole of the door to see what's going on. And Heather slaps the eye away, and the two leave for school.
And she is the female Terminator from Terminator 3.
Oh, cool.
Is she? Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't look her up.
Dude, this show is star-studded.
It is.
Yeah.
I was like, why does she look so familiar? Why is her IMDb picture so familiar? That it was like, oh, she's like the TX or whatever from Terminator 3. And I was like, although I did my best to forget that movie existed, all I remember is that character and when Arnold puts on the flowery sunglasses.
That movie's a masterpiece now if you look at some of the newer ones.
I mean, it's certainly better than some of the ones we got later, yeah.
So now we see Sally talking to Cookie in the kitchen. And we hear a vacuum, and that's just Cookie who's sucking things through the hose.
Blatant ripoff of Coneheads.
I lost my goddamn mind. I knew Ferg would too. Coneheads, which came out in 1993, the movie, and was a sketch in the 70s, they just rip an alien joke from a really successful group of aliens people actually give a shit about.
Right.
How fucking dare you? I want Dan Aykroyd and Lorne Michaels and fucking everybody involved to just sue the shit out of them. Now.
I'm okay with it.
Maintain low tones on this podcast. Pretty cheap, Conehead.
I don't mind.
Sally's expressing her concerns about Bobit, who she says thinks that he's the center of the universe. And Cookie's like, well, he is. Bobit is eventually going to grow up to be the Emperor, apparently. I mean, that could have been a fun show.
Emperor
right?
Hirohito. We can bring this back to where we were a few minutes ago.
I don't think he would have been the Emperor if he was a half-breed. He was half human, half alien. I don't think they would have allowed that.
Is he going to be the Emperor from...
Who's they? Who's they not allowing it?
The alien society.
Yeah. Idiot.
You're putting too much stock into this established universe actually making any sense.
Can they go back to space if they want to? Because him being the Emperor of space doesn't make sense in, I don't know, New York or California, wherever I'm assuming this is supposed to take place.
Where is New York and California, Joe? Floating on a planet in space.
Boom.
Okay, Gordo, I guess you got me.
Boom.
Thank
Roasted.
you, buddy.
I am chock full of wins. Is it time?
Is it time to end this episode? It is. So green light or cancel, guys.
Nope, not yet.
We're almost
Oh,
done.
God. Back to Doug at work, and his boss is saying nobody has ever had the guts to hang up on the Japanese in the middle of negotiations before. And now he must promote him. Now he's still using that very alien tone. Now we see a couple guys bringing in carts full of paperwork for these on dollies, like boxes and boxes of like more work to do.
Did you read what they said?
No, I don't think I did, actually.
All of the legal document boxes just said, in like written in marker on a piece of paper taped to them, tough cases. I laughed at that so hard, but not because of the joke of it. It was just so fucking stupid.
And now his boss says he has to go. He's going to hit the links. We cut to the mailman walking down the street, listening to the radio, when we see the shadow of a frog appear. As we hear it like thumping closer to him, and like he looks up, and then like a tongue just like
He just dies. They kill this poor mailman.
Yeah.
And it's not the last death this frog commits.
Yeah.
So yeah, now this frog, to our assumption, is now like Godzilla sized.
Frogzilla.
I love that they keep repeating it, like reporting on it throughout the episode, though. The giant frog is here.
Yeah.
But I guess if we're okay, because Time Magazine said that this is the marriage of the century, we're also okay with giant frogs killing poor mailmen?
You know, we don't know.
Imagine if, like, in the mailman satchel was the, you won the Publishers Clearinghouse for, like, $10 million or whatever, but you have to, like, respond to it. But, like, it's just being digested through a frog's asshole right now, and you never get it.
Joe, when was the Unabomber in prominence?
He would have been caught in 96, I believe.
So could we have sacrificed a mailman?
No, he was caught before this. Yeah.
He was. Okay.
Yeah. I think, fuck, I have to look it up. We were talking about it the other day, but I forget the dates.
I'm just saying, could have been a bomb.
He was apprehended in April 96, so he just missed it. But that means that one of his bombs could have been cycling through, so it could have destroyed the frog from the inside when it was headed to, like, a big lumber company or something.
So anyways, yeah, we're back to the kitchen, and Cookie's trying to clean up Bobit's mess, which happens to be Edvard Munch's The Scream, which is like now drawn on the wall in pudding.
Yeah, they don't even talk about it either.
The two paintings they loved making fun of in sitcoms in the 90s the most were The Scream and the Gothic Farmers.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they loved using both of those for anything they could.
Simpsons did it.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone did it. And Doug walks in and gives Cookie some roses because he felt bad for missing dinner. And Cookie is eating the flowers. And now she's bringing up, like, what happened to putting the family first. And he insists that he is. Like, he wants a bigger house with more bathrooms. She says a bathroom can't help Adam with his homework. And a bathroom can't go roller skating with Snizzy. And Heather's school isn't hosting a bathroom daughter dinner dance. And the kids need them. I did like the bathroom daughter dinner dance.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't side with Cookie on this. It has not been enough time of him neglecting the family for her to be that upset.
Well, she's seeing a fast change. You know, like as soon as he got this job, he's now unavailable for everything. Doug heads up to Bobit's room to like just watch him sleep, I guess, and wakes him up by accident in the process. And Bobit asks him to be elevated. And then once he does pick him up, says, "Read me Pat the Bunny, please." And I felt bad for this fucking little alien at this point.
Hi.
You guys all have empathy that you do not need to have right now.
I don't know.
Where's your heart,
I love
Joe?
kids.
Where's
but
your
I'm sorry,
heart?
no.
He's a neglected baby who's sad and begging for his dad's love.
Maybe I got neglected one too many times and it hit a little close to home. But just like looking at him like staring up sad, like because like that was like the fun thing they did earlier and then he wouldn't do it later. And like, so this means, again, I understand the context of this show, but you know, him being so desperate and saying please, you know, and he's still like,
right? He's a future emperor, all right? And he's bringing himself down to say please to his dad, his stepdad. Sweet.
His maybe stepdad. We don't know.
We do not know. I hate that we do not know, and I hate that I want to know. And I'm sure one of the 7 people involved in the show will listen to this and tell us.
Doug says it's late and he has to be up early in the morning, so he can't. And again, I'm like, just like, come on, Doug. It takes 4 seconds. Just read him the one page of the book.
Right?
It's 1 page he likes to read. Just read the book.
You fucking prick.
It's like, Dad, read me Great Expectations. It's like, no, it's like, read me 1 page of a children's book, and then we'll do the kissy, sticky thing, and I'll go back to bed.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
The blurst of times.
Blurst of times.
1,000 Bobits and 1,000 typewriters.
Bobit's saying like, don't go. Like, I'm afraid of the dark. Not like the regular dark, the dark of the cosmos, the vast empty abyss. And the scene fades out with Doug, like, cuddling the baby. So, like, I don't know, again, you're spending some time with the baby, just read the fucking book, but...
Right, you're cuddling the baby, you're hanging out and talking to him.
He's got to know that book by heart by then, too, so he doesn't even have to really open it.
We see, like, a quick cutaway scene of the frog's tongue now eating, like, a plane out of the sky.
Second frog murder that we've seen out of countless we probably haven't.
That frog may have stopped 9/11 if they just let it live.
If we didn't kill that frog, it just had him on the Statue of Liberty. Like, what's that coming up the East River? Take that, Honey Hunjor. You're not coming today.
Back in the house, everyone's on their way to the door to head, like, to that country club. Everyone but Bobit, who's going to be staying home with Sally.
Oh, Bobit.
Bobit's, like, hanging on to, like, Doug's leg, trying to stop him from leaving. Spit tells Bobit to not be such a gotch. Snizzy yells at her mom because he used the G word. So I apologize to any aliens listening for using that G word. I was just obviously reading context from the script.
How desperate is Sally, though, that she keeps coming back? How desperate is she for work? That she's going to this house where she's getting abused by an alien baby.
You know what, though? In the beginning, like, Sally kind of took pride in, like, there's, like, no baby she can't win over. So maybe it's, like, that conquest of, like, I need this baby to like me.
I like the crossover there. It's like, oh, you want to play patty cake? I'm your nanny. That would make me want to watch this episode.
Now that everyone's gone, it's just Sally and Bobit, and she's struggling to figure out, like, what to do. And this was something that bothered me. We talked about the sling earlier. Yeah. She's, like, doing, like, Itsy Bitsy Spider and other things where she's moving her arm around and shows that she doesn't need the sling.
Unnecessary sling.
And I get it. I get that the show has many holes in it, and it's a show about an alien-human crossed family situation. But why is she wearing... They never even explained why she had the sling on. So for her to be using her arm with the sling and properly, like, it just, why did we even do this?
That pudding was thrown really hard, okay?
I assume that it's supposed to be a time jump where he puts her in progressively more violent situations.
It's possible that it's something we never saw, but, like, then you got to sell the injury. You know what I mean? Her hair should be disheveled. She should look a little wilder than just, like, exactly the same, only with a sling now.
She kind of does. I mean, she has like a bandage on her head.
Oh, maybe I didn't catch the bandage.
Yeah, she has like a bandage on her forehead, like in the top forehead corner.
So while they're playing, she eventually lands on patty cake, and he gets so excited when he sees it happening, and like,
Did anybody think this was like a Roger Rabbit reference?
I don't.
No.
I didn't. It didn't flag me at the time.
Because, like, there's the scene in Roger Rabbit where they show...
That's very sexual. I do not think it's a Roger Rabbit
Right, but, like,
reference.
that's the only other time where patty cake makes somebody that excited.
No, it's the showing that despite everything, him being a genius with powers, he's still a baby, and the patty cake excites him.
And she figured out, like, the thing to, like, win him over.
I'm not bad at this podcast. I'm just drawn that way. I don't know. It's the best I can do.
And now, you know, he wants her to do this over and over again. But we know that this is going to last forever. Now we cut to the country club. And first you see Cookie at the table alone, and, like, it pans off, and now you see Heather, Tiffany talking at a table. Tiffany surrounded by all these dudes until she, like, asks for a water, and everyone scrambles off to get her one.
I thought she said waffle.
Yeah, she said waffles.
She did say waffle.
Oh, it's waffle? Oh,
That's why she asks spit for maple syrup.
Oh, that makes more sense now.
Unless she was on, like, a cleanse where she's like, get me water and maple syrup and cayenne pepper. I'll be shitting in 5 minutes.
Well, anyway, so she asks for a waffle, and everyone runs off to get her one. And now Spit walks by and catches her eye. And she calls him over. And she tells him, you know, she sure could use some maple syrup. Yes, now this all makes more sense. And Spit says, I suggest you drill a hole in a tree and suck it out. And walks off.
I mean, is that a reference?
No, I don't think so. Not deliberately. And now Tiffany finds this lack of interest to be sexy. Because as you see, every other guy on Earth is just, like, waiting on her hand and foot.
Well, they know she's a Terminator. You got to be careful.
That's true. Tells Heather to get him to dance with her. Now, Heather runs up to him and tries to get him to talk to Tiffany, and he's not interested. And eventually they cut a deal. So now the car she's supposed to be getting for her birthday, he now wants, so he can eat it.
She agreed to that real quick. She
Real
must
fast.
be
Right?
desperate. Yeah.
Like you couldn't just go to a junkyard and like munch on some junk cars.
Who wants an old junky car when you can eat a new one?
I assume, like any food, good quality ones taste better than poor quality.
How do we know though?
Like a new car is like chicken parm, and a used car is like eggplant parm. You don't want the used car.
How dare you?
No.
Hey, eggplant parm is delicious.
It's really
Disagree.
good.
Strong
Yeah.
disagree.
Strong disagree.
You haven't
Ferg,
had
you
it
don't
right
like any
then.
vegetables, though. I expect this from Ferg. Joe, I
Yeah.
somewhat respect you as an adult. A quirky one, but an adult.
I do love vegetables. I just ate I had a lot of broccoli tonight with dinner. I do not
Ew.
like eggplant, and I certainly don't like anything that lies about being chicken parm.
It doesn't. It's called eggplant
does.
parm. It's not called also chicken parm.
I don't agree.
It's not called fake chicken parm.
Well, it is in my house.
Heather calls Tiffany over to introduce the two formally. And Spit takes her hand to dance. And they're dancing to How Deep Is Your Love by the Bee Gees.
Yeah, that's a weird song
And
choice,
again, it
right?
was like, that's not cheap to just license a song like that.
Yeah, it's not the Bee Gees are like a not well-known band. They're like a band who sold 1 billion albums. Their songs are not going to be cheap for TV use. Oh, guys, wait, I figured it out. This is why it's not on DVD and why this show's not streaming anymore. They couldn't pay the rights for the Bee Gees song.
Oh, is that why,
That's
Joe?
the reason that no one's ever seen this again.
They definitely thought this was going to be a hit show. So they put money
Yeah.
into it, you know? The actual dancing was kind of funny, that weird, like, waving
Wavy.
arm thing they were doing together.
And then they go into like a more standard dance too. Like the choreography of the dancing was actually good.
He eventually, like, goes to give her, like, a spin, but
And then we lose it.
too powerful, yeah. And she, like,
Whackity
spins like a toddler.
smackity-doo.
If they're pulling a bunch of stuff from modern culture that's happening right then, you have him do the roses thing, like in Addams Family, but then he
But
eats
eat
the
it?
rose. Yeah, that's the fucking move. Not to try to make this show any better in the writing because fuck, but that's the move.
Well, Mom already ate a rose earlier.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The kid would do it. You know, it's like a family trait. It's a callback.
So he sends Tiffany flying with that spin. And now we cut to Doug and Cookie. And she says she wants the old Doug back. And he says this is the old Doug. He just wants what's best for the family. And now they've got it. He says it doesn't get much better than this.
Again, she can't be upset because he's not doing stuff with the family. He has the whole family there. They're doing a family activity right now.
But they were supposed to go to the zoo.
Oh my god, the zoo. You're at a fucking country club.
Well, like, that's not exciting to, like, well, I guess to Heather. Actually, looking at it, if they took the whole family, well, I guess Bobit was the only one who got slighted, because Bobit probably would have went to the zoo.
Yeah, he would have liked the zoo better, probably.
Maybe he doesn't love Bobit because he thought it was going to be his kid, and then it came out looking like her ex.
Maybe.
Well, he saw that giant baby dog, and he was like, that's not my kid. And then he was just super bummed out.
Again, it's just weird.
It's an alien, doesn't count.
That's baby.
It's an alien, it can be 10,000 years old and still a baby. It doesn't count.
What if he's like Yoda?
That's true. Baby Yoda's 50, but he's still a baby.
So to go back, as soon as he said that, you know, things don't get much better than this, that giant frog looks through the window that's right behind them. And everyone in the place starts to, like, scream and panic. And now it cuts to the house, like, later that night after, because it's like, I mean, to go back, like, they're running around and, like, but nothing really comes of it. We just see the frogs there. It doesn't actually attack anyone inside this building. But we cut back to the house later, and the family's watching the news where they say that the frog's being detained and was captured by the National Guard and will be taken to Euro Disney.
Which changed its name in 1994 from Euro Disney.
It was like Disney Paris,
I
right?
think it's Paris. It's Paris now.
And it's been that since 1994. So the show 2 years later didn't know what to call Euro Disney. It wasn't called Euro Disney.
Strange that this is ABC.
Yeah, it's a Disney show.
Yeah. Now we cut inside. Snizzy is explaining how she did this, reanimated the frog, and apologizes. And Doug says, no, it's my fault. You know, when my kids start recombining the DNA of a frog and mutating it into a giant monster who lays waste to our town, that means I've been spending too much time in the office. And that frog got too big too fast, and so did I.
This is like the real like Brady Bunch, like on down on one knee.
Bring it
the
all
dad
together
giving
in the
life
end, yeah.
lesson. Yeah.
And he's kind of like continuing on until Bobit says to stop his tedious moralizing. Doug obliges and tells Bobit that tomorrow he wants him to take the mind control off of his boss, and when he does, he's sure he's going to be demoted. And that's when Cookie goes, that's the man I abducted. And that's how that scene closed. For the end credits, we just get that exterior shot of the house with the credits rolling, and you can hear like an exhausted Sally doing patty cake over and over again.
And if you watch it originally the day it aired, you get Statler and Waldorf doing a closing segment where they say Suzanne Summers is a babe, and I fucking loved every second of that.
To peel like a few seconds further back, just to when it was like that closing scene, that was like, I don't know, that's kind of what I wanted a little bit more of in the show, is like them just being a normal family and without any like weird hooks and stuff. Like, I don't know. Not that I thought it was great, but I don't need all this like over eyeballs flowing and brain popping. Like, I don't know. I just thought they were overdoing so much that whole time. Before we kind of close, and I know we kind of want to talk about some other things, but real quick, I feel like this show could have worked with some tweaks. I really do. I think if you toned it down with the alien references and just let them be aliens, I do think they had to change the look of the aliens themselves to kind of like meet them in the middle and be a little bit more human-like. I think that like there was a world where this show could have worked in this time frame of like the mid-90s when there were some wacky shows that were successful.
You know what would have made this show work? 2 words, and the only thing it would have done. Bronson Pinchot. If we had Balky in here, I think he could have saved this a little bit.
Would he still be Balky?
As I told you guys, and I don't know when we'll have time to cover because we have a bit planned in the future. Luckily, there is an alien show that he is the star of. I am certain we will cover that one day. Yeah, instead of going too much about extra notes and stuff about the show, because there really isn't much, we talked about it before. The version we found on YouTube, which any of you guys can go and watch, had like its original commercials attached to it. So it'd be fun to kind of go over a little bit of that stuff.
The first one I'd like to say is we're 10 minutes into watching this show, and anybody who watches on YouTube, I hope they feel the same way. I'm watching this terrible sitcom, and all of a sudden it says, next week on Grace Under Fire, and I get a great sitcom slapping me in the face, and then after that commercial, I don't have to go back to John Wayne Bobert again. I don't want to fucking watch it.
And Buddies.
The Matt LeBlanc show?
Matt LeBlanc show, buddies.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing.
Me too.
That's got to be on the list now, too, right?
No, it was a movie.
Oh, he's right. It was a movie, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that.
Ace Ventura 2, When Nature Calls on VHS commercial. Chester Cheetah and Phil Hartman. Way to make me feel sad while watching this. I was like,
Yeah, right.
oh, Phil Hartman. What a great loss. A great man who we lost like way too fucking soon.
There's also a Little Caesars commercial with
Pizza.
Knievel and Jimmy Walker.
Yeah, he goes, dynamite, stuffed crust. This is the best commercial of all time.
Yeah.
And he plays tennis with Evil Knievel, who's on the motorcycle hitting.
He drives his motorcycle into the tennis net and just shoots him backwards. We get some Tylenol extra strength commercials going on in there.
Some Jell-O,
Jell-O, which is a good tie-in, right?
right?
Burger King's Kids Club.
Oh, we got both a Burger King and a McDonald's Happy Meal Kids Club.
Yeah.
So I looked up, at the time they were advertising McDonald's Happy Meal for $1.99. Now that would be $4.09 with the inflation calculator. Oh, I'm sorry, it'd be $3.87, but the same meal now is only $4.09. It's only a 20 cents difference. Like, I will give McDonald's the credit there that they have not hosed anybody on the inflation there. It's almost the exact same price in 25 years almost.
I've never gone to McDonald's and been like, this is ridiculous pricing. Like,
No, they're one of the few companies who keeps their pricing down, so you got to give them that. Oh, also, the monkey movie, Ed, we talked about too.
Oh, it was Ed with Matt LeBlanc.
That's Matt LeBlanc.
That's what it was, not Buddies.
Buddies is a show, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a show that was on after.
What I found a little fascinating, and it's weird because like shows, it's not like shows are directly tied into their advertisers. That's more of a network thing. But we had a show that mentioned pudding the whole way across, and there's like a Jell-O pudding ad in this. It's like they could have got Jell-O pudding to sponsor the show and use that instead of like generic brand pudding for this whole episode.
Didn't the boxes have Jell-O?
It was generic pudding, yeah.
Then you have Bill Cosby being there like, and I gave him the pudding. Like, oh,
I
we
think
can't watch this now.
That would have made it. If it was
Cookie!
Bill Cosby.
You need a drink, Cookie! Oh, you'd never be able to do that now. Those commercials would be burned.
Luckily, we're not going to get in trouble because if anyone listens to Joe's Bill Cosby impersonation, they're going to have no idea who he's trying to fucking be. So it'll keep us clean.
Can't do Bill Cosby.
You sounded like Eddie Murphy.
I was gonna say, or your Bill Cosby's like closer to the Jimmy Walker.
Well, again, Jimmy Walker, much better man than Bill Cosby.
As far as we know.
Oh God, that's gonna be the thing that gets me 30 years. He said the drink was dynamite.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of covered all this at great length, or at least we joked up through it for the last hour and a half. So not much left to do, but greenlight or cancel. So I'm going to go in the order I see you guys in. So Joe, starting with you.
A year after this show came out, the Heaven's Gate cult, wanting to go join the aliens, committed ritualistic suicide as they thought they would jump on the comet Hale-Bopp. When that happened, we got footage of all of them, mainly just their feet and shoes, dead. And that was all over the news everywhere around the same time. And that is a far more enjoyable alien video to watch than any moment of this fucking TV show was. And with that, I cancel.
Berg.
I broke Joe. As much as I'd like to pass one of my shows, hard cancel from me. This had strong member berries going in. I watched it about a month ago and I picked it. And God, is it bad. I disagree with the aliens' looks. I think they look fantastic. It's like everything else in the show is terrible. Special effects. I think we could make that. We could make this show. We wouldn't have the damn Jim Henson suits, so. But it hurts me to cancel anything that Jim Henson is attached to, but I gotta. Sorry, Jim. Cancel.
Nick.
Yeah, I was just totally disinterested in this front to back. It was poorly written. I didn't like the acting of the aliens, or if you want to call it acting. Like everything was just really unnatural and uncomfortable and poorly done. I don't have a lot to say about it. I just hated it and will not be watching a second episode, so hard cancel.
What did I do? Gordo.
Yeah, so this is a green light from me.
This is a real green light from you?
This is 100% a real green light. I did not mind this at all. I had the member berries. I want to see... like, this show wasn't good, right? But I can't really cancel anything with Jim Henson, just like all of you said when we covered the Muppets. You said I could never cancel anything with the Muppets, and here you are, or anything with Jim Henson.
No,
They're
we
not
said the
Muppets.
Muppets, and there was not a Muppet in this episode.
Also, I didn't know this existed.
But they all exist under the Jim Henson world, therefore they could be Muppets.
And I believe I did cancel that.
No, you canceled us being dirty on that.
You canceled the cast.
No, but I actually want to see a second episode. I want to see it was cheesy. It was like campy, stupid, just campy, stupid fun. Like, I enjoy that type of shit. Like, I enjoy B movies. I enjoy terrible things. So why wouldn't I enjoy this terrible show? Green light.
Right. So, much like Joe, I have a story to tell as well. June 1st, 1999. Blink-182 released the song Aliens Exist. No. Congratulations, by the way, to Tom DeLonge for being right, I guess. No, so this show was not good. And I love stuff in this vein, like Jim Henson Creature Shop, love dinosaurs. Like I said, I think there was a way that the show could have worked. But in its current incarnation, I just think it was a little too hokey. I think you need to dial down the goofy and just let it be a wild premise, but still kind of act accordingly. Just so much corny stuff happened throughout the episode. It didn't have enough there. Like the thing that makes you like a show like dinosaurs and stuff is it was very, in that it was an exclusive like dinosaur world. There wasn't humans in it, but it was very like realistic situations. There's a lot of heart with the family. Like this didn't really have enough there. It was just, it was so like concerned with the alien jokes that they didn't really care about piecing the other stuff together, other than the baby being upset that the father wouldn't read Pat the Bunny, which I think was like the only good thing about it, was like that was the only time they had like good tie-ins and stuff. I kind of had a feeling I wouldn't like it, but I went in with an open heart and gave it my best. No, it's just not good. And there's a reason it lasted all of 2 episodes before just kind of being shuffled across. This wasn't like a diamond in the rough find by any means. Cancel for me. with that being said, only 1 out of 5. So sorry to aliens in the family. You do not get the green light from us. You do not live on to see episode 2. I want to thank all of you guys for listening. Go to s1e1pod.com. That's where you can find all the links to all our social media, all that stuff. Give us a follow everywhere, write reviews. All those things help us out a lot. S1E1 Pod on Instagram and X, I guess. Hit us up over there and, shoot us a message. Shows that you want us to cover. Just talking to us in general is just something that we really like. Finding out how you came to find us and, meeting you guys has been really cool. But with all that being said, go to YouTube and watch this monstrosity of a show. If anything, it's a fun, quick little watch. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll catch you again next week. Thank you. Goodbye.
I think we got the best bosses baby in a I don't know, man. This was just bad. I don't have the best anything here.